Welcome to the final installment of our conversation with Jennifer Engel. In this episode, we discuss Amazon's 20 finalist cities and engage in some speculation. So you mentioned the finalists, too. We wanted to talk about the final 20. I know you alluded to that a little bit earlier. Again, they kind of came out of the blue. They collected all the RFPs, and then all of a sudden Amazon comes out and says, here's our top 20 cities that are still in contention. Again, kind of unorthodox on their approach. They just put something out, a statement out, and listed the cities. I mean, surprised by that? Or kind of just par for the course with them?
I'm not surprised by that. I was surprised it was so soon, to be honest with you. Even though the timeline for selection is a vague 2018, I expect that this is going to go on much longer, especially as the conversations become more targeted. But again, the document came out and cities submitted, and then buzz for it kind of died down. And, what an excellent way to get people talking again, get people really backing and being motivated on the cities that are still in contention. There's so many, opinion pieces written on these cities, and people are so invested in this HQ2, even if it's not your personal city that's involved. So I think that's a benefit. And, it gets other industries thinking. I know even being from Pittsburgh, and now they're a top 20 contender, Alaska Airlines just announced a direct flight from Seattle to Pittsburgh. So, it's getting the transportation industry thinking about what if it's this city, and, getting things ready to be prepared should it come to a particular city, because everybody wants to be ahead of it. Everybody wants to be able to, get benefit from it, for lack of better term. So it's a smart move on Amazon's behalf, because now that it's a smaller population of cities, these cities will be even more prepared in the event that they're awarded the business.
That's a really good point. I had no idea about that Alaska Airlines deal. That's pretty neat. That's certainly something that adds value to their bid, I guess, post-submission even. That's
probably more of that to come as well. As a conspiracy theorist, I've been loving the speculation that they're like hiding clues in their commercials, their Super Bowl ads.
Really?
Yeah, there's like everybody's been picking apart their Super Bowl ads, saying like, "Oh, does this mean they're going to Austin? Does this mean they're going to Atlanta?" And
wow, stuff. A little conspiracy theory. I have to go back and rewatch
I wouldn't
those.
Put it past them.
Absolutely not. So Jen, you mentioned your hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Obviously, our branch in Chicago. We're based outside of Philadelphia. Do these cities really have a chance? Do these 20 cities on that list really realistically have a chance, or do you think that's kind of weighted at the top, or there's a handful that really carry the most consideration? What's your gut telling you?
Well, do all 20 have a chance? Absolutely not. Some of these cities, I think, were just more to round out the list of 20. Some surprises that I thought would be eliminated by this point, and they're still in contention. Columbus doesn't even have a direct flight to Seattle. They're pretty weak transportation structure, borderline smaller city than Amazon's looking for. Same with Nashville, just because Nashville doesn't have any mass transit. But, it's already home to some Amazon warehouses, and I don't know, that seems surprising to me. LA was another surprise to me, because it seems like based on the final 20, they really want to move at least Midwest, but more to the East Coast. 14, I think, of the 20 cities are located on or near the East Coast. So I think LA was just a random choice to keep everybody guessing. But I don't think they would be a good fit. But I think of the remaining cities, sure, Pittsburgh has a good chance, Philly and Chicago, they all do, but I think Atlanta and Dallas are kind of the front runners right now. Atlanta is one of the biggest airports and one of the biggest transportation hubs. It has the space for it. The cost of living is relatively low compared to New York or Washington, D.C., who are still in contention. I think Philly has a good chance because of, Washington, D.C. and New York being such preferred cities. And I know Jeff has a lot of real estate in New York, and that's where he's planning on living. So Philly would keep that cost of living down, but also keep within, a distance to New York for commute purposes. And Washington, D.C. has one of the highest costs of living in the country. But in Washington, D.C., it would be easier for him to directly impact legislation. He would be kind of seen as a local boy, and, it'd be a lot easier for Amazon to kind of make their way into the government. New York, obviously, that's where people want to move to. And the demographic that they're looking to recruit is, technology people, younger generation, and everybody. New York and San Diego are the places that young people want to go to. So they're all within contention, but I think Atlanta and Dallas, in terms of balancing that desirable living space with the accessibility and the cost of living, those would be my top two picks.
I'm torn over Philadelphia, because on the one hand it would be like really great to say that we're effectively the home of Amazon, but having just moved to Philadelphia, the idea of my rent going up.
Yeah, it could hurt. Yeah, I hear you. Well, speaking of the Philadelphia bid, Jen, you mentioned the different publications. I know I was reading, I think in the Philly Inquirer, part of the the talking points that the city of Philadelphia submitted to Amazon was, and this is a fun Jeopardy trivia status going, 70% of the United States population is within a 2.5-hour flight of Philadelphia International Airport.
Is that really true? Wow.
I mean, that's what they said in the bid document. But yeah, if you think about it, a flight to Chicago is an hour and a half. Minneapolis is about 2.5.
In Philadelphia?
Yeah.
It's got to be a little more than that.
No, I go to Minneapolis quite a bit. It's about 2.5. Chicago's 90 minutes. So again, as you can tell, we'd love to have it hit Philly. Wonderful, Mr. Bezos, if you're listening to this wonderful podcast. Solid plug for the city of Philadelphia, but time will tell. And Jen, yeah, you kind of hit the key parts of all those cities, what their strengths and what they have to offer. Everybody has something to offer, and it's going to be really exciting to see what Amazon decides to do. Are there industries that may be greatly impacted or somewhat impacted by their decision, whether it be on the construction side of things or if they choose a region, the Southeast, as you mentioned, Atlanta? What else could be impacted? We always talk about the trickle-down effect. You mentioned it earlier, what it did in Seattle. Thinking about those geographic regions, anything stand out at you in terms of this could really see an impact if Amazon chooses city X?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, construction is going to be huge. Contractors are going to be huge, at least in that front. That will, eventually round itself out as construction slows and Amazon settles in. Transportation is going to be huge. The need for Ubers, the need for public transportation, the need for air transportation, everything is going to, hit that impact. But at the same time, we might see, if the cost of living goes up, some of those public workers are going to have a big impact because, sure, if the cost of living is going up because this average salary is going up, that's great for people working in Amazon. That's great for Amazon's competitors that are in the area because employees of those companies will likely see an increase in salary too to maintain those employees. But it's the teachers and the firefighters that are going to, experience that stress of the cost of living going up. So that's something that cities really need to consider. And I mean, just everything. Because I was reading something that was saying that when Amazon was building their Seattle headquarters, they purposely didn't build enough cafeteria space to support the employee base, to encourage employees to, venture out to local eateries, support local businesses. So that's something that's going to be beneficial. But yeah, it's going to virtually impact every aspect of that city's day-to-day living, at least for the next, 2 to 5 years while things settle.
And from the procurement side, more RFPs, right? I'm thinking they're going to have to bid out all those businesses, like you said, the construction. I would think we're going to see an uptick even on the procurement side of things across the board.
Oh, absolutely. There's going to be many more RFPs to come, but I highly doubt any of them will be as publicized as this because, Amazon, the size of them, they're conducting RFPs all the time with their internal procurement department. But I would assume that those will be more targeted and those will be, more a select supplier base with more documentation surrounding the needs, which allowed them, I guess, to keep this more open-ended as in the later stages once they have all the plans developed. All of that sourcing activity is going to be really targeted, it's going to be really competitive, and it's going to be a great win for companies that are awarded business.
Yeah, it really will be. It's going to be exciting to watch, and I'm looking forward to what the next several months hold when it comes to the Amazon decision. Jen, I've covered pretty much everything I wanted to talk about today. I can't thank you enough for taking the time. I know we're all pretty busy here and trying to juggle a lot of different projects and clients, but certainly appreciate you taking the time out of your day today to sit and talk with Bennett and I about Amazon. Again, really thank you so much for the time and for the insight.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. It was a pleasure to be here.
Can I ask one final question? Would you say that Source One is the Amazon of procurement services providers?
I see what he did there.
Sorry.
Absolutely, 100%.
Thank you for listening to the first installment of the Source One Procurement Conversation. For all your sourcing and procurement needs, please be sure to check us out at sourceoneinc.com.